This is Joe Bolen, and today we're going to finish part 2 of our Days to Christmas festive kiosk-like program that will count down our days to Christmas. Now, just to remind you what our program will look like, and when we're done, let's take a look at our program.
So jump in bed and cover your head.
And right now it's 24 days to Christmas, and as we run this each day, this will change. When we get to Christmas Day, this will change to Merry Christmas up here. And as you see, our Santa sleigh is moving across, and we can mute our sound as we need to. Well, let's get into the code. Let's find out how to get things going, and then also we'll add our sound and music to our code as well. So let's go to Visual Studio and go on with our code. Okay. Now, I have our form. Now, one thing I did do between the last video and this is I renamed this from Move PictureBox to Moving PictureBox to make certain I had it clear. Okay, let's take a look at the code behind that. And for this, we can come over and highlight our form and hit the View Code or F7. I'll hit View Code here. And we'll see that we have our basic form with nothing there yet. So one of the things we're going to do is, first of all, I'm going to come up above it by inserting 2 lines and put on Option Strict. And I'm going to turn it on. And that'll make us a little bit better at our programming skills. Now, what we're going to do with this one is we're going to have this load up. Now, let's go back to the form. And what I'm going to do is just double click on the form itself. And this will create the form load event on that. And here's our form load event. And I come over here to the handles part, put an underscore, and then hit enter so I wrap it around, make it a little easier to see. Now what we're going to do is call this and document it with our documentation. We're going to call this the form event, the housekeeping and initialization. So housekeeping and initialization. And that'll tell us what we're doing in here in this module. And one of the first things we're going to do in this module is we're going to get days. We're going to actually create a routine called get days. And this is going to be a function. So I've got to create this function to go with it. So let me go ahead and do just that. And then we're going to have some other things that will go into our housekeeping and initialization. Well, let's get our days going first. So what I want to do is go to my code so I can see where I'm at. And we'll create the code for get days. Okay, so let's create a class or a function for that. So I'm going to say private sub get day. Get days. Let's make it plural on that. So we'll get days there. Okay, so we got our function and got that set. And so we're going to call this subroutine when we start up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension a date type and get a set so we can process the days. So I'm going to create a variable called Christmas year. And I'm going to say that as integer. And what I'm going to do is use the today dot year method to get the Christmas year. So this particular year would be 2014 coming in there. Then I want to get the Christmas date itself. Christmas date as new date time. And what we're going to use is we're going to get the current year, which is Christmas year. Christmas year. And it's always going to be in the month of December, the 12th month, and always on the 25th. And I don't need to worry about the time parameters, so I've initialized this with today's current year, and it's the month of December, the 25th day of September, the Christmas. Now, let's take a look at what we need to do for the code. First of all, we need to find out, well, is today Christmas? So we're going to say if today is equal to Christmas date, then we need to do something. And what we need to do for that is we need to change our label that we have on our form. First of all, we're going to change the days to label. Days to label. Get it spelled right. Days to label dot text, and we're going to change this to say Merry Christmas instead of days to Christmas. Okay, so we've got our caption changed, and then on our days days to result label text, we want to just say you've got 0 days. So we've got that set. Then, because we know it's Christmas Day, we don't need to process any further. What we want to do is exit our subroutine prematurely. So I hit exit sub. That takes care of if it's Christmas date is Christmas. But if it's not Christmas, then we need to do some calculations. So what we need to do is say if today is greater than Christmas date. For example, it might be the day after Christmas. If it's after Christmas, then we need to change our Christmas date to the next year. And we do that by setting it to Christmas date, and we're going to use the add year function. And you'll see add year comes up, and I'm going to select it, add years. In this case, we're going to add 1 year to it. So now, if it's after Christmas, this will end up with being the year 2015, since we're saying it's like maybe the 26th of December. We're going to make it the next year, so we'll have that in place. Then after that, we want to come down and then actually get the dates figured out. And what we do is we dimension days to as a time span data type. And what we're going to do is set that time span equal to Christmas date minus today. And so that'll give us a time span between the two dates. And then I'm going to take the days to result label text property. And what I'm going to do is assign it the days, whoops, I want to change that a little bit, days to time span. And what I'm going to do is take the days to, and I'm going to use the days on that, and then I'm going to turn it to string. And that will give us that. So let's run this right now. All I'm doing to do is start up with get days. It'll come down and we'll process, get the current year, and process it through. So today being December 1st, we should see it show up on that with the right thing. So I'm processing it, and we'll see that we've got days to Christmas with the 24th in there. So we've got that all working correctly. We're going to be able to process that information. Okay, now we're ready to add some other features to our program. And one of the things we're going to be adding at this point in time is we're going to be adding the ability to have our Santa fly across the sky. So to do that, we need to add a timer control that we can create so we can move him across the sky successfully. So let me close out this. Let's come back to our project. Now I'm going to go to the form itself, and I'm going to go to the components area of my toolbox, and in that is a timer one. I'm going to take the timer and drag it to my form and drop it, and it'll go down to what's called the components tray down below. And I'm going to change its name from timer 1 to my timer. Now, we also can change some of the values right now if we'd like, but I'm going to do that within our code. The interval is in milliseconds, and we'll see how that's applied. And it creates what's called a tick event that'll fire off based off of the interval we've set and process. So I've got my timer in place. So I'm going to hit the save all. Then I'm going to come back to my form. And what I'm going to do after get days in my housekeeping is I'm going to go ahead and set the timer so that it has it correct. So one of the things I'm going to do is my timer interval. The interval for this one is going to be in milliseconds, and I'm going to set it for 500 milliseconds, which is a half a second. Now, we watch TV at 30 frames per second, and basically it's like a old movie film where our eyes do not notice the difference. And so by getting it about this speed, we should have the sled move across the sky. Then we have to enable our timer, and so I'll hit enable and I'll make it true. So this will start our timer on that for our project. Now let's go down to the actual tick event where we have to do the code to get our sled to move across the sky. So I'm going to come up to the top. Now I could go back to the form and double click on it, or in this case I'm going to go up here to the top and go to class name, come down to my timer on that to get my timer selected on the left side. Then I'm going to come down to the tick event, and it'll create my routine for the tick event. And there it is. Once again, I'm going to document this and move things around just a little bit. And what I would like to do is use the timer tick event to move PictureBox across the screen. So I'll want to document that. There we go. So we're going to document it for what it's going to be doing. And now, what we want to do is we want to find out information about our PictureBox. And what I'm going to use a special dimension of a variable. I'm going to use the static method. The static method allows us to preserve whatever we set this at so that when we return to this event, it'll have a value. So I'm going to get the X location as integer. And what I'm going to do is initially set it to the moving picture box's left coordinate. So I've got moving picture box left on that. So that'll come in, initialize that. Now we want to set a new X coordinate, the horizontal part of our code. So I'm going to document what I'm going to be doing. Set new X coordinate. And what we're going to do is take X location, and what we're going to do is decrement it, moving it from left to right If I did the other way, it'd go from left to right. I want it to go to from right to left, so I'm decrementing it. And I found out that about 10 pixels is what I need to do. I'm going to say here, move right to left. On that, so I'm going to decrement that. And then what I'm going to say is graphics off edge of the form, which could happen. I want to reset it. Okay, so if X location, in this case, becomes less than or equal to the width of my picture box. So I'm going to go to look at the picture box on that. Picture box width. Now, in this case, I want to use the negative width because I want to have it past its size. So I'm going to go negative on that. Then we're going to set the X location to the width of the form. Oops, I got it. And if. Okay. Now, once I've got the X location set, we need to move our picture box. So I'm going to document what we're going to be doing. Move image. And we do that by using the moving picture boxes, set bounds method on that. And here's where we set the bounds method on that. And we're going to use the X location. And we're going to use the moving picture box's top location, which is the Y part. Also the moving picture box's width. And the moving picture box's height. Okay, now I'm going to tab that over so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so by changing that, that'll get it to move. And what we're doing is we're decrementing it so it moves. So let's see if it'll happen. Now we set the timer to do it every half a second. And we're decrementing the location by 10 pixels. So let's see this run.
4 o'clock.
And there it goes. Now the important thing is, as our width of the picture box gets to the far side of our form and goes off screen, that we're going to hit the reset to move it back over to the other side. So let's see if it'll do that. We're coming across. We're going to the edge of the screen, off the screen, totally off, and there it comes back because we've done the reset of the location. So we're decrementing the X location. Now if we wanted to move around, we also use the Y coordinates and change that as well. And there's our Santa sleigh moving. Now let's add our sound to our event. Okay, so let's close this out. Now to do that, we're going to go back to our form on that. And so I'm back to my form. Now what I'm going to do is come over to the components area of my toolbox. In fact, I'm going to drop this down a little bit so it's easier to see. I'm in the components area and I'm going to highlight components and I'm going to say add, choose item. And what we're going to do is bring in the media player so we can play our MP3 music. So I'm going to say choose item, and I'm going to come over to choose the COM components, and then I'm going to scroll down, and I can also browse as well, but I'm going to scroll down to Windows Media Player. We'll see Windows Media Player coming into play. I'm going to select that and say OK. Now you'll see Windows Media Player has come into my component that I can use. And we're going to now take this and drag it to our form. We're going to drag it over here to the side. And at this point, I'm going to change its name so that it's a little bit easier to use. I'm going to call it mPlayer on that. And also, what I'm going to do is change it so that it becomes invisible. So I'm going to change this visible to false so it won't show up. And I'm going to hit Save All. Okay. Now I need to also bring into my project my music. So I'm going to come back up to my project, right click, and do a add at this point. So I hit add existing item, and I got my MP3 one. So I'm going to go back to my desktop, to my resource folder that I collected things in, and I'm going to change this to all files. And there is my Here Comes Santa Claus music, MP3. Add that. Now I've got my music there, and now I'm going to highlight Here Comes Santa Claus. Now, one of the important things to make this work is copy to output directory. Right now it says do not copy. What we want to do is change this to copy if newer, so that as we compile the program, we're going to put this in our applications folder. And now I've got that set. I'm going to come back up and save all again. And let's go back to our code. Now, we're back to our code. We're going to go back up to the top to our initialization and add another line of code. And what I'm going to add to the beginning of this one, as I get all my notes in order here, is I'm going to add to it a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to add get music routine. And that's going to be my function that I'm going to call. We'll add that in a second. Also, I'm going to come up to the top right under public class. I'm going to add a new variable on that that'll be used to bring in my music. So I'm going to use a constant in this case because it will not change during the program run. And I'm going to call it song, and it's a string, and it's going to be equal to Here Comes Santa. Whoops, better spell it right. MP3. There we go. Oops, 3. There we go. So what I'm doing is telling the system the name of the song that I brought in, Here Comes Santa Claus, and it's going to be a constant in here. And then when we go into the routine of get music, we'll see that being processed. So let's now create our get music area on that. So I'm going to scroll on down and create a new sub, private sub get music. And what we're going to do in the get music, first of all, I'm going to document what this sub's doing. And I'm going to say it's going to initialize the media player. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to say with mPlayer. Okay, so I've got that set. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, make certain it's hidden. Do the hide routine on it. Then I'm also going to settings property. And on the settings property, I'm going to do auto start and set that to true. And also, I'm going to set mode to loop and I'm going to put that in, comma, true on that. And then the last one I need to put in is the URL of this one, and that one is going to be song. Okay. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to bring in something else, just so you'll know how to do it if you want to use Windows system. Now, if you have a WAV file that's the right type, you can not use the media player. And I'm going to code this in so you'll see how to do it if you want to do it in the future. So it's going to be my computer audio play, and then all you have to do is put in song audio play mode dot background loop. So if you're using the system's ability to play a WAV file, you can use this and skip this part here. But I wanted to let you have that so you'd have that to know. Now let's take a look. Let us save all. Let's see if we can get it to work. Okay, got a problem. Now the problem is what? Let's take a look. Yeah, I don't have a problem. Let me recheck that. I have my speaker turned down. Let me rerun that. Yeah, it's working fine. Good. So it is coming through. Okay, so make certain you spelled everything correctly here of your song, that you've come over and made certain that you copy if newer, to copy it to the output directory, and then you'll come down here and code your routine, setting everything for this to run. Okay, we've got almost everything done. But you know it's winter time, and I like to add a little snow to my project. So let's get some snow into our system. And we do that by creating some randomized spots on our screen. So I'm going to come back up to my project on this and come to the very beginning, and I'm going to create a particular field that I'm going to use, or instantiate a field, and I'm going to do a private, and I'm going to call this generate random. And I'm going to use the random class on that. And what I'm going to do is initialize this with the new keyword, new random. And what I'm going to use as a seed is the date time now function. And I'm going to go to the millisecond. And this becomes, and I'm going to highlight this with a comment, the random seed to make it unique every time it runs on that. So I've got now the random variable set, or should class initialized. Now I'm going to come down and create for that our snow. So to do that, I need to make certain I've got my snow section ready to go here. So give me just a second to find it. And I'm looking for where I have my notes for this one. Okay, we're going to do this in the paint event. So what I'm going to do is come up to the form, go to Days to Christmas form event, and come to the paint option, so that every time we paint the screen, we add snow to our background. So now I've got my paint event, and I'm going to change the handles on that. What I'm going to do in the section for the paint event is this. I'm going to dim a pin call it a white pen so I can have white snow as new pen, and the color is white. Color is going to be white for the pen, and I'm going to make it 2 pixels wide on it. So I've got my pen for 2 pixels wide. Then I'm going to dim an X and Y coordinate. Editor. Okay, so I've got those set in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some snow. And depending on how much snow you want, you'll change this parameter. So I'm going to change this from index as integer using a for loop 1 to 300. Now if you increase the value here, you'll have a blizzard. So watch how much you want to set this for. So I'm going to take X integer on that. And what I'm going to do is generate a random value for where the snowflake is going to go. So I'm going to use generate random. And what I'm going to use is the next method on that. And then within that, I'm going to pick the first location and then the width, ME width, as the highest parameter. So it's going to generate me an X coordinate. I'm going to do that also for the Y coordinate. And once again, I use 1 and ME width, ME height. Okay. Now we're going to put our graphics on the screen. So you'll see that I have the E ability here to get that E in there. I'm going to use E graphics. And I'm going to do a draw line. Draw image, draw line, draw line. And the line will be a white pen. White pen. And I'm going to use the X integer, the Y integer, and I'm going to make it width at 1 pixel wide. So I'm going to use the X integer plus 1 and the Y integer plus 1. Okay, and I'm going to make this a little easier for you to read. I'm going to hit the return here. And so what I'm doing is making a little line using 2 pixels in width, and I'm moving it 1 pixel over from its location. So it's a very short line on that. So we should see this one run. So every time we paint the screen, this activity occurs. So let's see it run. And there's our snow. Now, one of the last things that we want to do is take care of this mute, so we don't have to listen to the song all the time. So we've got everything almost done except for the mute. I'm going to come back to the form on that. So let me go back to the form. And what I'll do is just double click on this, and we'll create the mute change text or checkbox event on that. And once again, I'm going to wrap this around so it's easier to read on that. And I'm going to document what I'm doing here on that. And it's going to be toggle sound. Okay. And then the sound area, what we're going to do is basically say on this one, if mute checkbox is checked, so if mute checkbox check property is equal is checked, which will give us a true or false. We'll say true here. Then what we want to do at this point is mute it. So I'm going to use mPlayer and go for the controls. And what I'm going to do is pause. And else mPlayer play. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, once again, just in case you happen to use the system's ability to play a WAV file, I'll code this in too, so you'll see this. My computer audio stop. And the other one is my computer play song play mode. Okay, so if you chose to use a WAV file instead of the media player, you'll use these two lines of code instead of the mPlayer part. So let's see this one work and see if we can stop that music if we want to. I'm going to hit the mute, and it turned off. Undo it, came back. So we've got it done. I'm going to do full screen, and there's full screen, and we'll let him run off the side. There he goes off the edge, and he'll come back on the other side. There he comes back. So we've got this all set. We've got our project done. Okay, so let me give you the final instructions for this project. First of all, I want to show you the final code all neatly cleaned up on that. And what I want to bring to your attention is that you can go out to Pastebin to actually see the code. This is the location where this code's at for this project. Also, the video you can come back and visit at Bolen Presents at YouTube. And if you want to see the screen to help you in designing the screen's out there, Imgur. So all these will take you to the locations. You'll have all the code on that for this particular project. You'll see it neatly organized, how we did it, and everything's there that we just did. And hopefully you'll have enjoyed doing this project on this, and you'll come back for more videos. And I hope you have a great holiday if you're watching this during December. And remember, the moving picture box could have been a train moving across the screen or some other kind of activity, maybe a ball throwing through the air. So the concept of that moving picture box is a really nice concept. The idea of painting the snow with the paint event is another possibility. And we used the random class to generate our random seed to create different locations on our screen for our snow. And we also saw how the label box can look like a text box by changing its back color and also changing its border to fixed single for the border of that label as well. So everything's just labels, no text boxes in this, and picture boxes. So it becomes a fun but somewhat easy project to do, and a lot of reward as you showed this during the holiday season. So I'll leave you with our program running. So I'll bring back up our code and transfer over to it, and I'll keep the music with Gene Autry's Here Comes Santa Claus, and I hope you all have a great, happy holiday. And until next time, get your hands dirty in the code.